Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Crystal and this is Books Forever After, where I sit on my floor and we talk about books. Alright, so as you can tell by the title, we are talking about my most recent reads, which is my November wrap-up. And let's get started. Alright, so first we'll do a little quick recap and do some stats and then get right into a little bit of quick-ish review. So there we go. Alright, so this month I read 7 books. One book I DNF'd, which was, where is it? Roseblood by A.G. Howard. Not finished that one. I read 2 library books, physical books from the library, from my local library. 4 from Kindle ebooks on Kindle Unlimited, and 1 physical owned book. All right, let's get into the book that I DNF'd. So the book that I DNF'd was Roseblood, as I mentioned, by A.G. Howard. This was a Phantom of the Opera retelling. It is YA, kind of fantasy, basically. Obviously stalker. It's Phantom, so I thought it would be good. I mean, the cover is gorgeous, but I just, for some reason, I couldn't get into it, and like I read like the first 3 or 4 chapters, and it was just, oh my gosh, I'm like, it was just very annoying, and I'm like, why? In the writing, it just dragged and it didn't make any sense. And so I went on Goodreads. Like, am I the only one? Like, why can't I get into this? And I forget whose review that I read, but they did a whole recap. They took so much time and they went detail on what they didn't like about this book. And obviously, you know, it has like a gothic feel because she's going to a school called Roseblood, and you know, I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. And her description was so great and such a great recap. It's just like, yep, I'm not continuing. I'm like, I just cannot. This is giving me such a big book slump. Most of my first week of reading, so just probably why I only read 7 books this month. So I just gave up, and I was like, this is so painful. So painful, and so disappointing. So because I did read a portion of it, I did DNF it. It is on my DNF bookshelf, so I did not consider it read, but I did start as 1 star. It's just, that can be controversial, whatever, but it was just bad. So probably going to unhaul this, obviously. Whenever I do my unhaul, probably beginning of January, do a quick de-pairing of any of my books that I haven't liked or anything. But yeah, I was just totally disappointed, and it did not give me what I wanted. I wanted like a gothic romance, you know, kind of like fantasy element, mysterious, and it did not give me that. Just so painful. It is probably indicative of the era that it was written, you know, released. I think it's probably early 2000s. This text copyright 2017, so actually it's really pretty recent, so that's surprising. So that's unfortunate, but yeah, just bad. It's still pretty cool. I like the fact that they had red print. That was all into the design, but I feel like it needed better editing. That's for sure. So DNF. All right, so moving on to the stats. And of course, my tab. Okay, so I have my notes. Okay, so this is on Storygraph. So I will try to put timestamps. New to booktube, so you can tell. So I'm gonna try to put timestamps down below of these different sections, the types of books, so that way if you can skip ahead if you don't like to read or listen to stats. So my stats, I read 7 books, which was about 2,673 pages. And most of my moods were, it says emotional, mysterious, dark, adventurous, and lighthearted. Most of these were, 57% was a medium pace, and that pretty much tracks, I would say. And then about 43% was like a fast-paced read. All of my books that I read were between 300 and 499 pages, so no novellas and no like tombs this month. Everything was fiction, of course, and all of them, looking at genres, everything was romance. Some of the subgenres was, 2 were historical romance, 2 were fantasy romance, 1 was erotica romance, 1 thriller, and 1 contemporary. And as in format, 57% was digital and 43% was print. And my star ratings, I did not have anything, I did not mark my DNF as part of my ratings for the month. I just kind of didn't count it here, but besides that, every majority, I had a lot of 5 stars, so that's preferable, let's just say that. So it was really good reading month. So my average rating here was 4.29, as you can see up there. I had 4 5 stars, which basically more than half is, I mean, that's a pretty good, pretty good month, I'd say. 1 was 4 star and 2 was 3 stars. Alright, so that is the stats. So let's move on to the reviews. And as I stated, we'll just go through and do the breakup on how it is here. So let me get comfy. Take a seat, get comfy. Okay, so my 2 library books that I read that I actually physically checked out from the library. The first one was The Heiress Hunt by Joanna Shoup. I have a picture here because I already returned it. So it was a good community citizen. They had returned it before it was due. So that is a feat in and of itself. The library is actually, the one that I prefer to go to is actually only about 10-15 minutes away from me, so it's not too much of a trek to get there. And actually kind of like a nice little scenic drive as well. So yeah, that is The Heiress Hunt. And then the other one that I read is, I have it in my hand, The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shoup as well. So both of those are number 1 and number 2 in the Fifth Avenue Rebels series. The Heiress Hunt, I rated that a 3 star. And this was my first introduction to Joanna Shoup. I initially rated this a 4, but then I was thinking about it, and how I really felt about it. It was what I expected, and that's why I put like a 3, but it really didn't wow me. So it did what it was meant to. It was for its target audience, but I just wasn't for me. I still really liked it. I definitely loved the banter, and I laughed out loud 1 or 2 times. So that's why I initially rated it a 4, because I did laugh, and I like literally physically out loud laughing. My husband gave me the strangest look when I did that. He's like, "Are you okay?" So yeah, I'm like, this is funny, and you try to like tell him, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." It's like, does not want to care. It does not need the context. This is why you're laughing and hackling out of a book. So I can't remember what it was that made me laugh. I know in the second book it made me laugh as well. So so the kind of the tropes here is that the friends to lovers, which is probably why I didn't enjoy it as much, because I don't really, it's not my favorite trope, friends to lovers. But this is set at a house party, and between Harrison Archer and Maddie Webster. They kind of he ends up leaving for a couple of years after he hears Maddie discussing with some ladies that asking inquiring, you know, if she would be interested in Harrison. And kind of like similar to what Colin did to Penelope from the Bridgerton series. For all of my fellow historical romance lovers, you know, the Bridgerton show, that's the season 3 that's coming up. He overhears her, so like kind of like a reverse, overhears her say like, you know, no, you never be like into him and that kind of thing. And so he was hurt because he's always pined for her. So we have the male pining first, so the male falls first. And so because of that, he just kind of goes, I think to Paris. Can't remember where he goes. But he goes and, you know, makes his millions or whatever and that kind of stuff. So I think he also, that night that he goes home, he also discovers something else, also prompted him to want to, with his family, it also prompted him to leave as well. And I think it talks about like how his family was really crappy to him. One of the things that I believe from I can infer from reading it is that he is some ADHD representation, because it seems like they was telling him to sit still and kind of like treated him like a black sheep in the family. So I think that's probably why it's rooted there on that. And it also has a sports romance kind of in there because the heroine plays tennis and she actually plays it professionally as well. So this is set in the golden era, I forget what it's called, in America, and which is not your typical one. It's usually most of the historical romances that are popular and that you typically see are within the Regency period and set in London, England, and things like that. So this is really cool to be the late 1800s and be set in that time, which is, I've always, the Industrial Revolution kind of period and Golden Age, I kind of like, I love that. And so there is a little bit of cheating in here. The female, the heroine is engaged, ends up getting engaged to the Duke that is at this house party. So initially, when he comes back a couple of years, when Harrison Archer comes back, he asks Maddie to set up a house party, and so she gets everybody set up at this house party, and most of the book is based there because he needs help. He tells her that his family has told him that he needs to marry an heiress or else. So things ensue in there, but in reality, he has other plans in mind. But yes, I definitely, even though it wasn't my favorite kind of trope, and I did rate this a 3-star, I still would recommend this, and it was a good read. Following that, I read The Lady Gets Lucky by Jana Shoup, which this follows Christopher or Kit Ward and Alice Lusk, who also meet at the house party. She is a wallflower, and she's a little more like timid, so it kind of gives me the vibes of the Wallflower series on, oh gosh, which one is it? I always do this and I can't remember. Okay, so I want to say Devil in Winter, kind of like that vibe. So she kind of like a little more timid and things like that, and quiet. I mean, she's a wallflower, so that's kind of the trope there. It has the lessons in seduction, which I love that trope, so that was really fun. And the hero is being an entrepreneur and opening up a supper club with his friend Preston. And the thing that I loved about this was the banter. Again, I love Joanna Shoup's writing. Her character communication, that's my favorite thing, is banter. That is what kind of like, for me, it's, I don't know if it's like the angst and like if there's banter, that's how I really enjoy it, and like the angst and the communication and that kind of thing. And so one of the really funny thing, this may be spoilers, so just, you know, skip if you don't want to be spoiled at all. But the one part that made me laugh out loud is that at some point in this book, the hero is drunk and he starts undressing, and it just in front of her, and it was just, I found it kind of hilarious, that whole scenario. So I don't know if you read it, you probably like, it wasn't that funny, Crystal. I'm like, I don't know why. It was just like kind of funny, and I think it's just kind of like him being drunk, kind of like those little like comments that are just like said in some sort of way that makes it kind of funny. So I know, I thought it was it was very sweet, very funny. He totally, oh gosh, the kid was definitely a hero that was there for the heroine, and I love that, in supporting the heroine. And I don't want to kind of spoil it either, so I just want to say like he helped support her in her dreams, and he and insofar in which that she is helping him with his club in some sort of fashion. So I kind of want you guys to read that to kind of experience that, but yeah, he's one of those characters, kind of like I guess is what they call a cinnamon roll hero, but such a good book. So that was really good. So I'm really looking forward. I'm so glad that I signed up for the e-arc. The 4th book e-arc that I've never read the series before. Took a chance, and so far the series has done me pretty good. So I'm really excited for that. So yeah. So I am reading the 4th book as part of my TBR to continue on, because I really the 3rd book, the 3rd book, and then the 4th book. Hopefully the 4th book, because it does get released in January. So yeah, so that was a really great read. And then next, so The Lady Gets Lucky, that was the 2nd book, the physical book that I read, and I read that. That was a 5-star read. So those are the books that I checked out from the library. The physical books I checked out from the library. And on ebooks, on Kindle Unlimited, it just released this month as well, and so I jumped on the bandwagon because I'm like, this is a new discovered to me author this year who is now a new fave of mine, and that is QB Tyler. She released What Was Meant to Be. She is like the taboo forbidden queen. This is an age gap. It's taboo and forbidden. There is cheating in here though. Parents' best friend, both the parents, they met in college on his side. It is a second chance, and another forbidden. He's also her godfather. So yeah, rated this a 5-star. This is between a Jacob Price, or AKA JP, and Whitney. And so there's also like daddy kink in here as well, just a little bit, not like full on, but just kind of hints at that in a relationship. So this starts out as a second chance. So this is 5 years after. So when she turned 18, she kind of started initiating, because she's always had like a crush on him when she was like 15 or something like that. And then she kind of like initiates it when he is drunk one time and stayed over their house. And that kind of starts their 2-year secret relationship. And then after the 2 years, he kind of breaks up with her, and he's a doctor, so he goes to like Mexico, I believe, for Doctors Without Borders, because at that point he chose his friend's relationship over her because of because obviously those implications there, and like how can it really exist long term and that kind of stuff. So he loved her and everything, but he just, how can we exist in real life? So after 3 years that they are broken up, he comes back after he hears that she is engaged, and he like just drops everything and goes. So I forget, there's like a really famous quote that was like really good on here. And so yeah, so lots of angst. What I loved about this book was that there was actual consequences once it is revealed, in the 3rd act. Their relationship and how it was revealed was a little bit more angsty as well, but I did love the fact that there's actual consequences to the cheating and to their actual relationship being discussed and things like that, and being out in the open. And I love the angst. The only thing in critique that I would give is that I wish that there was a little more fleshed out. I feel like they came, like, I want to say about 20%, 30% they came back together as a relationship. I wish there was a little bit more of a, and this is like spanning literally like a week or two, 2 weeks time. So I just kind of wish there was a little bit more give and take and push and pull from starting back the relationship again. But I don't know. And it may be a little bit more angst or some other kind of situations. There was one instance to where a couple instances where they both get jealous and such. So that kind of helps. But I just kind of wanted more. It's Kiwi Tyler. I just wanted more of her writing. She has great writing style. And yeah, and if you want a taboo forbidden romance, it's great. I still have to say, a similar book that is like this, like Second Chance, The Forget Me Not, which is like a marriage in trouble one, or they're actually a divorced couple, Second Chance, still my favorite, ultimate favorite of hers. So yeah, that's another similar book that if you would like to try as well from her, I highly recommend that one as well. Alright, so yes, 5 stars. Next I read on Kindle Unlimited was Gothicana by Ridix, or Gothicana. I rated this a 5 stars. This is what Rosebud did not give me. This really, it gave me what I wanted. It was, even I didn't realize what I wanted, so it was so good. Ridix is the new to me author. She's another indie author. So good. It's a gothic romance set in a creepy college. So it's got dark academia vibes. It's very atmospheric. It's kind of got thriller aspects as well, which I typically don't like romantic suspense books. But for some reason, like gothic romance and the way that this author kind of told the story, it just worked for me. And because she set up the atmosphere so well, it balanced the romance and the mysterious, creepy thriller aspect as well. It's kind of weird. You're like, and that's maybe why I love gothic romances, is because you get that creepy and very mysterious, and the hero is very mysterious, and you don't know if he's a good guy or not a bad guy, or he's just, a great, morally great character, and it was just so good. And I think this is what makes it kind of sexy as well. So definitely such a good one. It is also professor student, so he's a professor there. He's finishing up his doctorate, I want to say. And there is an age gap. There's only a 5-year age gap, so they kind of like, which the heroine is like 21 years old or so she kind of starts late. There's some other like almost mythical aspect, and I don't want to spoil it, but so I don't want to go too into detail, but very, very good. There was one scene that kind of like at the end I'm like, that was interesting, and I kind of wanted more, but like it's kind of like gave you that secret society as well, because there's like a ball at the end where everything kind of starts to come to a pinnacle, and it like starts with almost starts like an orgy kind of a thing, so that was kind of interesting, but like just like the teasing of that kind of a thing. So there is open door scenes here, but this was such an emotional read too, so like I don't know, it's just balanced the steamy scenes actually kind of matched and kind of was like helped build the story as well in their relationship. So really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to read more by this author, and I gotta look more into it. Like that, this is definitely the books that I kind of love on that. So, and I think it's just because I love Jane Eyre, as I stated before. Jane Eyre, anything that's gonna get in Rebecca, and one of the books that I grew up on, reading in high school and such, and it kind of just gives me the adult version of it a little bit too, like a little bit of like added spice to it. So, and it's also a modern gothic romance as well, because it's set in today's time. So I definitely 5 stars. Can't rave about it enough. The main character was Vad. That's the hero's name is Vad. So I can't remember what his full name was, but it's kind of weird. And her name is Corvina. I think she was called, oh, what was her shortened name? I can't remember. But yeah, it's just interesting names, but definitely fits. And I think it's because her name stands for Raven. So obviously there's a lot of symbolism in this book as well, because, you know, ravens and crows and things like that. So loved it. Just loved it. So yeah. Next, I read on Kindle Unlimited Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, and this is my first book that I read by this author. I am discussed this in my TBR for the month of December, and she's releasing her first like fantasy romance, Anastasia, and so I've been wanting to read more by this author. She reads mainly dark romance, like mafia romances, and mafias aren't typically my most favorite books to read, but yeah, if they're done well and that kind of thing. So this Brutal Princess is the first one in the Brutal Birthright series, and I think it's like 6 or 7 books. I can't remember how many books there is. Maybe 5. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a mafia romance. It's an enemies to lovers. He's from the Irish mafia. She's a daughter in an Italian mafia. They do end up having to have a marriage of convenience. So this is between Cal Griffin and Ada, and it kind of starts off on she's kind of like I want to say like a bratty. She's the youngest. She has older brothers, and you know, the bratty kind of, you know, tough sister. And I loved that she was like a strong female character. So she accidentally, or kind of on purpose, starts a fire at a party, and which would have started and snowballed into a big like fight again, that they both of the sides cannot afford to have another thing there. So to resolve it, the head mafia guys, I don't know their names, what they're called, the dads kind of like agreed that they would get married. I think Cal is like in his 30s, 34, and I think she's like 21 or something like that. So like a 10-year age gap or so. But yeah, so definitely loved it. There was some hilarious things. Another one where I laughed out loud. So this one I gave 4 stars. I laughed out loud at the wedding scene, so that was hilarious. But yeah, another one where I laughed out loud and my husband gave me a weird look like, are you okay? So great, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next one is kind of like the second one is I think Beauty and the Beast retelling almost as well, so it's also obviously mafia, so I'm interested in trying it. So definitely going to be continuing on with this author, and I followed her on Instagram, and Sophie Lark, and she seems like a genuine and kind person, and that's why I love following her. And so I'm excited to actually support her and reading her works as well. So definitely excited for all of the books that she's coming up, except if she's branching into fantasy romance as well. That's gonna be pretty awesome. All right, so, and then next on Kindle Unlimited, I read Titan by Jillian Grant. This is a monster romance. I rated this 3 stars. It has Daddy King. The monster is a gargoyle. He has a ribbed tail and peen. So read into that what you will. It was a good time. That's all I have to say. It was okay. I think it kind of drawled out a little bit. It tried to go the plot a little bit too in depth, or I don't know. It's probably part of the series, and I don't think I'll probably continue on the series, but it was a good like refresher, because I was still in like a gothic mood, but I wanted something like a palate cleanser as well, because I was having trouble with reading For the Wolf one that I'm reading right now. That's which is my current read. So yeah, so I'm currently reading this one, so I needed a palate cleanser because I was having trouble just reading so many good reads. I think it put me into like a book hangover a little bit, so it's just kind of dragging. There's nothing wrong with this. I'm still enjoying this, but just myself. So yeah, it's a good little refresher. His name is Titan, and her name is Juliana. And she was like a childhood actress, and yeah, she tried to help him find some sort of, she knows, I don't know, some sort of tablet, I don't know, some sort of like artifact or something, and so forth. So you know, it's a flimsy plot, but you know, it was a good time. Definitely interesting. I don't think I've ever read any Gargoyle Monsters romance. So yeah, I think I've delved into that. I read a couple alien ones. So, what was the alien one I read? I'll post it up here if I remember which one it is. It's the blue ones. Planet or Ice Planet Barbarians, I think is what it was. So yeah, that was a great one too. So it's a subgenre and romance that I never thought that I would actually enjoy, and kind of opened my eyes a little bit. So, but it can be a fun time. Definitely interesting. Loved it. So love it. Okay, so finally, I read book number 2 in the Kingmaker Chronicles, and this is Breath of Fire by Amanda Boucher. This is another newer author to me this year that I read and that I am really enjoying. So the first book I think I rated a 4. This one I rated a 5 stars all the way. I don't want to give spoilers on the second book because you can spoil the second books, but this is a fantasy romance. The first one is Heart. I can't remember. Heart of Fire? No, this is Breath of Fire. No, Heart of Fire is the third one. It starts as a captive. She is a kingmaker because she's basically a, what you call it? A walking, talking lie detector test. And so obviously you can see the benefits of this. What I love about these series is that the series is kind of like Greek mythology as well, with some magic. It's kind of and in this book especially, there's more quest and more action with the different Greek mythological creatures, and I really saw it more in depth in this one. But like the author's writing and the just the descriptions, it's not too flowery. It's like, I don't know, it's just right that you could picture yourself there. I can't remember exact quote, but like it's something she made a description about, like how the snow is in like the sunlight, and just a description of the sunlight coming through. That was just so perfect because you can actually picture yourself there, and so realistic. And I really, really appreciate that. And that's like really, that to me is a very good indication, great indication of good writing. And I never felt myself taking out of the story. I just like, the only thing that kind of made me stop and think like, wow, that was because it brought me so into the story that I was like, wow, I can picture this. This is awesome. And her action scenes are very top notch as well. So love this author. I know she's also a historical romance author, so historical and fantasy, I mean, those are my genres. So definitely love this author, new discovered. So I don't know how much I can ramble anymore, but like definitely recommend, and I'm looking forward to reading Heart. Is it Heart of Fire? Yes, Heart of Fire for December. So yeah, so this is book 3, and book 4 just released, I think, in August. So I definitely will need to pick that up and pick that up at the bookstore. So yes. So yeah, that's it. So that was some really great reads this month. Like put me a little book hanger where I was hoping to read, I think 10 or 11 or 12, 10 to 12, but you know what, for reading 7 books, I had some really great reads, and I'm not going to pressure myself for the end of the month, for the end of the year. So I've already met my reading goals, reading challenge for how many books I wanted to read this year, so surpassed it. So yeah, great read. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below if you've read any of these books before, if you've enjoyed them, and yeah. All right. If you don't want to do that, you just want to comment, just go ahead and just leave a comment saying hi, you were here, and leave a snowman in the comments. All right, well, that is it. So until next time, thank you. Bye.